Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 8 of the Bible Together reading plan here at First Christian Church in Jefferson City, Missouri. So this week we are in the book of Leviticus, and I am sure all of you were just eagerly awaiting for our time in this book, right? Because let's be honest, there is a lot here that feels really strange to modern readers. There is blood everywhere. There are detailed instructions for priests. There are laws about food and skin conditions and bodily fluids. Lots of fun. At one point, blood gets put on Aaron's ear, his thumb, and his big toe, which, I don't know, raises some questions. And then there is this really intense moment where Aaron's sons offer what the text, depending on what translation you're reading, the text calls it unauthorized fire or unholy fire. And they end up being consumed by fire and they die because of it. So, sitting with all of that, I found myself wondering, what kind of God is this? How is anybody supposed to live in the presence of a God like this? I think that is the deeper question that underlines everything in Leviticus. Can a holy God live among ordinary, messy human people without those people being consumed? When you start to look through the laws, or look at the laws through that lens, you can see them start to shift just a little bit. All of these rules about clean and unclean, about what you can eat, about avoiding disease or bodily discharges or anything even remotely connected to death, they're not random. They are about life. Because the God of Leviticus is a God of life, pure life. And anything that's associated with death or decay just doesn't belong in that presence. So the laws become a way of protecting life, a way of helping people live in proximity to a holy God without being overwhelmed by that holiness. The priesthood, seen through that light, starts to make more sense. The priests aren't just religious leaders. They are mediators. They're the ones who are specially trained to move super carefully in that space between a holy God and the people. That's why they get warned not to approach casually. That's why they have to be attentive and sober and discerning. Because, to allude to C.S. Lewis and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, this God we're talking about isn't exactly safe, but he is good. So then we turn to the book of Hebrews, and the author of Hebrews seems to be looking at all of this, the priesthood and the sacrifices, the whole system, and the author says, now Jesus Christ is our high priest. He's not a distant one. He's not set apart from human experience. This is a high priest who knows weakness, who has suffered, who has learned obedience. And then, after talking about that, there comes this line that almost feels really shocking after everything we've read in Leviticus. It says, let us approach the throne of grace with boldness. Boldness, man. Not fear, not distance, not stay back until you're sure you have everything exactly right. Boldness. Not because God has become less holy, but because somehow Jesus Christ has made a way for us to stand in that holiness without being consumed. I think that's the thread that ties all this together. God has always wanted to be near people, but Leviticus showed us just how complicated that is. And Hebrews tells us that in Christ, That distance between people and God has been bridged, not by removing God's holiness, but by making a way through it. And that sure sounds like good news to me. Thanks for joining me this week. Hope to see you next week. Take care.